Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today is a Patreon request from Philip550C. I'm talking about the 2010 album from Senking, Pong. First I wanted to say I have not been very good about fulfilling these requests. This was sent in 4 months ago and I'm extremely late on it. So I seriously apologize for how long it's taken. Got 3 more of these to fulfill alongside a couple that will probably be getting text posts rather than full-on reviews. Gonna have to focus a bit more on those, I think. But yeah. Anyway, let's talk about this German downtempo producer, Jens Marcel, or however you say that, aka Senking. A frequent signee to the Raster Noton label, minimal electronic focus label that's had mostly artists I've never heard of. Besides, maybe I've heard of Bitone and Ryoji Ikeda. Also a handful of somewhat more prominent artists like Kosi Fanny Tutti, Ryuichi Sakamoto, Wolfgang Voigt, aka Gas, and Robin Rimbaud, aka Scanner. They have apparently released things on the label at some point as well, though not exactly on a regular basis as far as I can tell. But okay, it's no secret that I listen to an absolute ton of downtempo and dub music. Have for years, and I'm always open to checking out some new ones I've never heard of before. And I'd never heard of Senking before this request was sent in to me, so this could be promising. I'll admit I have not heard any of this guy's albums besides just this one, so I'm not gonna act like I have a full grasp on what this guy is all about. But just going by this one album, he seems, well, right, I guess. Doesn't really strike me as the kind of thing I felt I was really sleeping on, or that I ought to have gone out of my way for. My first impression of Pong is that it just sounded like something Sounds from the Ground would do right around the time this was released in 2010. Maybe has a more minimalistic bend to it than their usual stuff, with each individual synth note feeling like it has more definition and presence, rather than blending into a seamless groove. Otherwise, it's really just kinda like an SFTG style album. And not one that left a super strong impression on me. I mean, it had its moments, for sure. Like, I was actually pretty impressed by this thing on the promise of the first 2 tracks. Like, Unlighted started out with mostly just individual bassy synth notes covered in reverb and creating a pretty cool atmosphere that, while familiar, was certainly welcoming, and went on to progress into something a bit more layered with piano riffs and squeaking synths accompanying the core groove. And Luma followed a similar structure and included plenty of vibraphones and electric Rhodes pianos and some occasional classic-style dubstep webbing. Almost none of these elements actually playing at the same time, just each of them just echoing out into the distance and creating this big sense of space. I was thinking, okay, this may be really subtle and relying on very few musical elements, but it is working well for what it is. But after this point, I mean, the album kind of started to lose a little bit of its flair and originality. Well, none of it was bad, but it just kind of reminded me even more of SFTG, feeling less like its own thing. The track Pain Bug in My Eye in particular just felt like some of their later period work to me, with once again a more simplistic and minimalistic spin. All its dark, bassy washes felt all too familiar to me. And Death by Drowning, I almost never actually noticed when that one happened. It blended perfectly seamlessly into the previous track, and its dark, bassy grooves were nearly identical to what came before, with even less progression. Though the album did pick up again for me once I got to Low Flow, the longest track on the album and the most minimalistic of them all, at least for the first half. Staying really moody and playing a couple of bassy washes alongside electric piano chords and little quiet bursts of noise distortion. And it has more progression and evolution than previous tracks as well, feeling like it changed up into something else with less bass and more buzzy percussion halfway through, and there's even a bit more proper energy in the last 2 minutes or so. This track was probably the best in the bunch. The mood it created was really captivating and made a lot of good use of its 9-minute length. Breathing Trouble returned to the dark and bassy tones from previous tracks, reminded me a lot of something from SFTG's Wider World album again. Though that hadn't come out yet at this point, so that's from 2012, this album's from 2010. But yeah, Breathing Trouble is fine enough, though this is also the track that has probably the single musical element from this album that is actually liable to get stuck in my head. It's just this one repetitive reverb-coated vocal sample. Good day, isn't it? Ah! So yeah, that one was alright. But then you got the entirely forgettable Mimi, which meandered around a bit much and never really developed into much of anything I personally found all that captivating or satisfying, or that I couldn't already get in a more compelling way on previous tracks here. There's some cool Rhodes pianos, but there's also these buzzing wubby effects that sound like they should be bassy but have their bass like EQ'd out. Now V8 did a lot of the exact same sounds as the previous track, but in a more satisfying and interesting way, mostly carried by these howling, wind-esque whistling synths that come in and give all the bassy grooves underneath more of an air of mystery, and there's a bit more energy and flair in the back half of the track. But then we finished on a bit of an unsatisfying note with Skeetozer 301, which I probably would have liked more if not for this one sample that sounds somewhere between a burp and a hiccup, and I really do not care for the sound of it all. As someone who's had some pretty serious acid reflux problems in the past, all this did was make me feel really uncomfortable in a way that I don't think Senking intended when he put this together. But that's about it. Now, I do want to make it clear that even in this album's worst moments, it's not remotely bad at all, or even really that similar to SFTG. Like its most derivative sounding moments remind me most of their Wider World album, that again wouldn't come out until 2 years after this album, or their The Maze album that came out in the same year, and I think this predates by like a month. So it's not like I'm accusing this guy of ripping off SFTG, that's obviously is not the case. And it's not like Senking is an exact clone of SFTG to begin with. Again, he does have a more minimalistic edge to his sound that uses a lot fewer musical elements than SFTG tend to. It's all just a problem for me because I listen to so much down-tempo music of a really similar style to the kinds that Senking explores, and I don't think he really does enough that I haven't already heard before out of plenty of other artists, not just SFTG, but also Magic Sound Fabric, 01, Blue Tech, maybe carbon-based lifeforms, you get the idea. I guess basically what I'm saying is that I don't think I personally have much room for Pong in my life. If you're looking for something in that mold with maybe a bit of minimalistic and often quite dark and bass-heavy bend to it, it's certainly worth a shot. And its best moments are really something nice. There was more originality and a bit more personal enjoyment than, say, that most recent Chris Carter album. But on the whole, I don't think Pong is essential listening, and I doubt I'm going to be thinking about it, or let alone putting it on, much at all in the future. It's cool, but it's nothing special for me. I'm overall feeling 6.7 out of 10. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. Shout out to my Patreon supporters, they're awesome people. You want to add yourself to that list or make me a review, something, link to my Patreon is in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.